take any chance you get. Somebody gives you a commercial to make, somebody gives you a music video to make, somebody gives you a movie to make, or a TV series to make, or a documentary to make it. Just make it. Just do it.
Forward unto dawn.
How did I get to where I am today? So, first of all, I didn't go to film school. I was supposed to be a plumber. That's the family I come from. And my dad refused to speak to me for about 6 months because I went to art school. What I wanted to be at that point was a painter, a fine art painter. I went to art school and I learned to draw. That's something I'll come back to a bit later on. And as I was doing my painting degree, I realized I didn't like working, particularly like working on my own. What I found I liked working, what I enjoyed most of all was working with other people. So when I finished my degree and I was a qualified fine art painter, I joined the film industry. And I joined at the very bottom. So I was literally running, making the tea. And when I did that, when I say runner, I ran everywhere. I just did the very, very best job I could do. I just tried to impress everybody around me, and it seemed like that was enough to put me on the road. But I suppose one of the things overall I learnt by doing, and we'll get back to learning by doing a little later. Then what happened was I was running, I did a bit of production work, and what I really wanted to be was a director. What I was good at, it seems, was organizing things. And I hooked up with a couple of young directors, and we made music videos. It was at the time, it was the height of MTV. It was every band made a music video. They were very well funded by the record companies. And so that's where we learned. We learned by making music videos. And then I went on to, at a very low level, join a company called Propaganda Films. Propaganda Films is an American production company, largely doing music videos and commercials. But this Propaganda was the training ground for truly, truly great filmmakers. So I'm sure you're all familiar with David Fincher. David Fincher, one of the directors at Propaganda in the late 80s, 90s. Spike Jonze, for my money, the best director in Hollywood. Propaganda. Michael Bay, Propaganda. It was a fabulous place to be for a few years. I was at Propaganda, and I realized that I wanted to make movies. That's where I really wanted to be. I wanted to be in movies. Very wonderfully, they said, okay, we're going to give you a movie to do. Little movie. And I'd never been on a movie set before. It was utterly terrifying. But, I threw myself in the deep end, and that was the start of working as a producer. So getting on to, and what I was at that point was a line producer. So that's a good way of starting to ask the question, what kind of producers are there? And there are quite a few different kinds. You may see now that, if you look at old movies, the producing credit used to be one person, probably. Produced by David O. Selznick, whoever. Now, the list of producers goes on forever. But there are lots of different kinds of producer. So it used to be that the executive producers used to get credits on movies mainly because they raised the money. They were the people who, they basically raised the money. What changed was executive producers, line producers started to be given the title of executive producer in the mid-2000s, probably, maybe a little bit before that. So when you see executive producer, it can mean quite a few different roles in the film or in the TV series. What I am is what you would traditionally call a line producer. So a line producer is a hired gun. You call me up and say, here's the script, here's the budget, here's the script, here's the money, and what I have are the skills to put that all together and give you back the finished movie. So I'm a nuts and bolts kind of producer. And that's what a line producer does. I've sort of transitioned a little bit into more the creative side of producing, because what you also have are creative producers. And you have producers who aren't particularly specialized at putting the movie together or the TV show together, the nuts and bolts of it, the budget or the schedule. That's not their thing. Their thing is finding the stories, licensing the stories, securing the stories in some legal contractual way so that they can then go and turn them into filmed entertainment. And that's the other, and traditionally, in a way, that's what the producer credit is. It's a creative role that pulls the whole show together, perhaps hires the director, and then off you go. But so and these producers, they all kind of cross over a little bit. And now where I am, I've kind of got into that sort of line producer, creative producer kind of area. So that's what I do these days. So what I would say, in terms of producers, there is a difference between television and movies. But internationally speaking, movies are the director's medium. On a movie, the director is really the center, certainly the creative center of that project. Television is a producer's medium. And the reason for that is that on a big television show like One Piece, we have 4 different directors. And what you need, and they come and go throughout the shooting schedule. And what you need is a creative overview. You need somebody who is a vision that is consistent throughout 8 episodes, 10 episodes, however many it is. And so producers are the creative center of episodic television. The position which is at the very top of that pyramid is known as the showrunner. Now, showrunners are very much an American system. Showrunners are almost always writers by trade. So they've probably written the script, or written some of the scripts. But showrunners, as I said, top of the pyramid in television, are usually writers. Now, because they're writers, what they need is filmmaking nuts and bolts expertise to help them. Because they're writers, they've spent most of their career in a room with either just themselves and a computer or a few other writers, if it's a big writer's room. So that's where I come in. I get hired to work with the showrunners to be able to realize the vision of the scripts. I am one part of a huge machine. I'm probably quite a big cog in the machine, probably quite an important cog in the machine, but I am only a cog. And I have to be connected to all these other cogs so that the machine runs smoothly. So I'll very quickly talk about the money, I'll talk about the production plan, I'll talk about the people, and then maybe a little bit about creative. So what I'll do now is just very quickly just run you through the production process. I get the script, Netflix sends me the script, they tell me how much money they want to spend, and the first thing you have to do is figure out whether this film can be made for this money. Generally, it can't, because they don't want to spend as much money as they need to spend, and the script is too big, and so then it's a case of hammering this square peg through this round hole. But the first thing you do is you take the script, you break it down, and you put it into a schedule, because your biggest unit cost on a show is the cost of a day's shooting. It can be anywhere from $500, I'm talking US dollars always, $500, $400,000 a day. You know, these are big amounts of money. So what you can imagine is, if you don't figure out how long you need to make this show, if you're a week out, you could be a few $1 million in the hole. So the first thing you need to do is to schedule it. Then you take that schedule and you put that into a budget. And doing the schedule is the expertise of a first assistant director. Putting it into the budget is the expertise of your production accountant or your financial controller. The AD, the line producer, the production manager, and the financial controller or production accountant, those, in my world, those are the key people. They are the core team. And you have to be, and those people, you know, that's who you talk to every day as a team. Those are the people that I rely on. So that's the start of the show. Then you figure out that you can afford it. Netflix say, we don't have that much money. You say, okay. So then you maybe reduce the script a little bit. You make changes, and then you know, eventually what you do is you sort of push it and squeeze it and all the rest of it. And eventually they'll give you a green light and you go into production. But that's the first creative process, is getting this script to fit into this budget. Lots of shows never get made because they never manage that process. They never, you know, hammer that square peg through that round hole. They don't happen. So it's utterly essential that you do that. What I would say is that one of the most important documents you will ever produce on a movie or a TV show is the first budget. There is as much science, what I call science, in this budget as possible. There is much that, you know, so yes, you talk to the design department, you talk to every department you can. The problem is that at the point you're doing this budget, you might be one of only 2 or 3 people on the whole show. You probably don't even know who the stunt coordinator is. You might not even know who the production designer is. You might not have one. So you are doing both. If you have people you can go and talk to who you know will be on the show, you start the conversation. But very often you don't know who they are. That's when you pull on experience. The reason for that is that so many decisions flow from that first budget. So if they've got $50 million and the budget we do costs $60 million, you've got to take $10 million out of that show, making up numbers. That means taking a big knife to that, scissors to that script. That's a huge deal. That's a really big thing. So if you've got that budget wrong, you may be tearing pages out of the script you don't need to tear out. So the first budget is a really critical document. What I would say when people ask me to do a budget, or they have done in the past, I would say, I need 2 months. Normally what they want me to say is, I'll give it to you in 2 days. And I'm like, I'm not your guy. What I want to do is I want to do as much research as I can so that this budget, which I believe to be one of the most important documents you ever produce on a movie, is as thorough as possible. Because, like I said, all the decisions which flow from what that number is can be huge. Might even mean that the show never gets made. So that's one thing you need to get right. Producing is like a dark art. And even I don't really know how it works. It seems to work out okay at the end of the day, but I'm not really sure how we got there. But I'll try and explain what I mean by a dark art. You've got this amount of money, you've got this script, you've got the green light, off you go. You have to make sure that at the end of the shooting schedule, you haven't run out of money. Along the way, people will come to you with creative ideas. That's their job. They'll go, oh, why don't we do this? And you have to, as a producer, you have to kind of decide, this is a completely new idea. You've never thought of this. And it's big and it's wonderful and it should be in the show if you can afford it. But can you afford it? That's a judgment call. And it's partly down to experience. It's probably down to a little bit of a gut feeling, and that's the kind of the dark art part of it. Experience is the main thing, I think. And you have to make a decision as the producer as to whether we go and make this new idea or not. But what you cannot do is run out of money before you get to the end of the shooting schedule. And at the same time, your job as a producer is to get as much of that money on the screen as you possibly can. That is your job. That is one of the things. You have many roles, but one of your overriding jobs is to get as much of that money on the screen as possible. At least that's the way I see my job. Now that's a difficult thing to, as wisely as possible. What does that mean? That could mean one thing to you, one thing to me, and one thing to somebody else. So, and there will be lots and lots and lots of competing requests. And you can't afford all of them. So you're going to have to choose which ones you go with, which ones you don't, where you spend the money, where you don't spend the money. And that's what I mean by the dark art. Because you don't, how many times have I said on a show, a crystal ball would be nice? It would be wonderful because you could see what was coming down the road. But you can't. So you have to make the judgments you make, not regret them, and go for it. But it's a difficult thing to do sometimes. I've just put in here saying yes, which is easy, saying no, which is one of the, and what that part of producing is, look, the easy part of producing is saying, yes, let's do that. We figured out how to do it. We figured out how to afford it. Let's go and do that. Much more difficult is saying no. Because film crews, in my experience, are deeply passionate bunches of people. Very committed, failure is just not an option for them. And when they want to do something, they want to do it. But sometimes they can't do it. Sometimes you just have to say, I'm really sorry, this is too much. This is a bridge too far. We can't afford it. Whatever, whatever, whatever. So I think one of your skills as producers is learning how to say no to people. We've got something on One Piece, exactly this process. Something that's just, way too big. And we've kind of whittled it down and shaped it and, into something that we can actually do. So sometimes as a producer, you do have to end up saying no, but try not for that to be the first word that comes out of your mouth. After you've done the budget and the schedule, you know that you can afford it, you have to build a production plan. That's when you start hiring people. That's when you start hiring your core production team, because those are the people who are going to build the show for you. And the machine you need to, I often use the word machine, I mean production, but I mean the kind of production machine. The production office, the accounts office, the transport office, the locations department. They are the kind of machine that makes all this happen. Make it as robust as you can. Lots of people don't hire enough people in these departments, and everybody has a horrible time and struggles. So make it as robust as you can. And when I say robust, what I mean is able to deal with surprises. Because this is filmmaking. No crystal ball. Surprises come at you out of the blue, and you have to deal with them. You can't say, okay, we're going to stop while we figure this out, because your day could cost you $250,000. You cannot stop. Once you start, you do not stop. So make the machine robust. One of the ways I describe my job, oil, grease, and glue. All I have is a computer and a phone. All I do is talk to people. I don't make anything. I sometimes think I'm just like a lubricant. My job is to make sure that the show runs smoothly. It is to make sure that this department is talking to this department, that everybody knows what we're trying to do. One of the ways I've always done this, and anybody who's been on either Black Sails or One Piece, every Monday morning we have a 9 o'clock HOD meeting. All the heads of departments sit around a big table. And we go around the table, everybody has to give an update of their department. It's the way the production talks to itself. Because what you often find on productions is that departments can just kind of disappear off into their little bubble. And this department doesn't talk to this department, who doesn't talk to this department. And it's essential that they do, because all of their work has to come into focus on the set on that day. And if it doesn't, it's either not a good scene or you fall over. So what's essential is that you have communication which glues the production together. So what I say, part of my job, I'm oil, grease, and glue. I think one of the other dark arts of producing is knowing when something is just a bridge too far. That's experience. And that can be at any level. And that's, again, why I say go out and do it. Go and make films. Because the problems you will see in your next production, you will find easier to solve if you've seen that problem before. Or you've got, you look at it and you go, you know what? I've seen something like this before. So practical experience is utterly key to making films. Knowing what is just beyond the production. We have these discussions all day, every day. on this show. We have a lot of money on One Piece. But we still have situations where you just go, this is too much. We're trying something that we just can't pull off. And that takes me to the thing of, if you can't do it well, then possibly don't do it at all. One of the other aspects of being a producer in my capacity is the balancing act between the production and the studio, the network, or whoever's paying for all of this. Really, whoever gave you the money to make your show. Giving the money, if I give you the money to make your film, I can either say, okay, just go off and do it. Just go and do it. Just give me back the film. I don't really care what it's like. It doesn't work like that. The people who give you the money want to know that what you give them back is the film that will protect their investment. At the very least, they don't want to lose money. In an ideal world, they want to make money. So very often, the people who give you all this money have a say in what that film actually is. That relationship between you as the filmmakers and the people who give you the money to make it is a very, very delicate balance. Sometimes it goes smoothly. Sometimes it's like a war. It's not a war. That's the wrong word. It's not a war. It's a fight. It's a creative fight. And so part of my job is that I'm a bridge between the studio and the creatives. And so there is a diplomatic role here, which is trying to, again, it's oil, grease, and glue. It's not oil, grease, and glue on the set, on the floor. It's oil, grease, and glue, at producers, directors, creatives level, to make sure, to try and just get everybody to just accommodate each other and to find ways through creative disagreements, creative differences of opinion. So that's another aspect of what I do. There's a lot of diplomacy involved. The one word that I think you can apply to filmmaking of any kind is compromise. And compromise can be, it's a bit of a dirty word. It's like, I don't want to compromise. But if you're working in the film industry, you're going to have to learn. Because there is never enough money. There is never enough time. There is never enough of anything to do it your ideal way, or my ideal way. So on One Piece, I don't know, maybe at the height we had over 1,000 people working on the show. That's a lot of people with a lot of different personality types. A lot. They come in all shapes and sizes. And as a producer, you have to keep this unruly, crazy, opinionated bunch of human beings all traveling in that direction, relatively on the same road. That's your job. That's one of your jobs. So, like I said, if you don't like working with people, probably the wrong business for you. I'm at a lucky stage of my career where the shows I work on have enough money and I can hire the best people, some of whom are in this room. The best. But work with the best people you can, because their quality will reflect on you. You will all raise the bar. But and if you can find people who are like-minded, think the same way as you, and are brilliant at their job, those are the people you want to be working with. Probably like-minded individuals is the main thing, because you will all learn as you go. So nobody's the best at the beginning. Leading, again, I think, for me, is a dark art. Nobody taught me this, and many people will say probably I'm not very good at it. But it is, as a producer, it is one of your roles. You are a leader. One of the qualities of leadership for me, and you will find this on any film production, with any crew, try to be fair. Crews do not mind if sometimes things go against them. They're told, no, you can't do it. But you need to be seen to be fair in that judgment, and you need to be seen to be logical and that you've thought about it. Comes back to this whole thing of saying no. If no is your knee-jerk, people will not understand it, they will not agree with it, and they won't accept it as easily as if you lead them through it. Forgive them. They will make mistakes. So will you. How many mistakes have I made on just one piece? Too many, for my liking, but I'm going to make them. I'm going to make them. Everybody has bad days. So when you are a leader and people screw up, forgive them. Because you're going to make the same, not the same mistake as they made perhaps, but you're going to make mistakes too. Because one of the things about film production is, when I say is that we are not making washing machines, clearly. What do I mean? What I mean is we're making a film. It means we're learning what we're making on a daily basis. What you have is the script. That's what you're making. But you read that scene, you see it one way, I see it another way. It's an approximation of what the finished article's going to be, what people see on their TV screens. So we're figuring it out on the day. We're learning what we're making on the day. So I think it's always a useful perspective to say, there's no blueprint for this. It's a creative process. It's fluid. It changes. There are ideas that come in. And then what you have to do as a producer is somehow to constrain all of that into something actually shootable on the day. And for those of you who've been on films before, you have a call sheet. Every day you have a call sheet. That call sheet tells you what you have to do on that day. You have to complete all of that work. And I think that a shooting day runs on a margin of error of about an hour. Because if you're an hour behind at lunch, you can probably make it up in the afternoon. You can probably figure it out. If you're 2 hours behind at lunch, you've probably screwed up the day. And now you're looking at another day to compensate. You have to come back because you didn't finish it. That could be $250,000 or $5,000. But it's always going to be more than you have. So I think we have a margin of error of about an hour per day. So that's again, one of your responsibilities and roles as a producer is to trying to constrain all this wonderful creativity into something focused on what you can actually film on the morning or on the day. Again, that's kind of the experience and the dark art. Respect for hierarchy is important. Films are very hierarchical structures. I once wrote a thesis about revolutionary French filmmaking. And there were a whole number of projects. And the Trotskyites had a project where everybody on the film had a creative say. The Trotskyites never made a film. There's a reason for that. The reason I say respect for hierarchy is because there needs to be, in my opinion, and this is always a difficult thing, there needs to be somebody at the top of the pyramid who says, I have listened to you all of you are wonderfully creative people, but this is the way we're going to do it. Because you can only do it one way. You do not have time to shoot it two ways. So that person, now I can guarantee you that there will be, I don't know how many people who go, well, that's a really stupid decision. But you know what? When it's your money and you're in charge, it will be how you want it. Until then, the guy in charge, the man or woman in charge, it's how they want it. So respect for hierarchy is important. And you'll be amazed how many people don't understand that. And then it gets a bit kind of, you know. Safety, as a producer like myself, I think safety, now this is, Andrew sat at the back, he will understand this. But the safety of your crew is one of my biggest responsibilities. Probably the one that makes me stressed more than anything. As a producer, as it happens, on the health and safety document for any show, but on this one piece, it's my signature. So I am ultimately responsible for the health and safety of the crew. And film sets are not safe places, you know. I mean, we all move incredibly fast. We do make them as safe as we possibly can, and certainly the health and safety on a film is way better than it ever used to be, way better. But there's still, we do stunts, we blow things up, we set people on fire. You know, these are all inherently dangerous things. Safety is one of your biggest responsibilities as a producer. I think you've got to hit stress, stunts. The thing that makes me more stressed than anything, stunts. I hate them. They're fantastic, but I hate them. Back to the experience thing, just do it. When I started, there was no video. There was just 16mm film. We couldn't afford the film, and when we could get hold of the film, we couldn't afford to get it processed. When we couldn't afford to do that, we couldn't afford to get the sound synced up with it. Making films was incredibly hard when I started. Now, you have 4K cameras. You know, I'm not sure, not everybody has a 4K camera, but the ease of making films is so much easier for you guys. I'm so envious. You can edit on your laptop. The technology has allowed you to do it. Therefore, go out and make films. Find stories you want to tell. And when I say films, music videos, documentaries, it doesn't matter. Do it. That's how you learn. It's how you learn to work with other people. I'm sure you do it in college as well. But just do it. It's the best way, I think, to learn. Make mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. That's the other best way to learn. The last thing, this is just a tip. Now, not everybody will do this, and learn to draw. Learn to draw vanishing point perspective. Okay, so look it up on the internet. There's lessons on the internet, how to draw vanishing point perspective, but learn to draw. The reason I say that is when it comes to films, you're talking about visual images. There comes a point, and this happens every day at work, there comes a point at which words run out of usefulness. Because what I say when I describe something, a visual image, is not what you see in your head. If you can draw it, it's so invaluable. It's so invaluable. I can go, oh, that's what you mean. Learn to draw. It's a real help. It will really, really help you. Okay. What do I want to do in the future? I've got, old man coming to the end of my useful career. What do I want to do in the future? I am in exactly the same position as you. I'm in exactly the same position as you. I have been hired by studios to make other people's films. I want to make my film. I've never done it. I've always made other people's films. I want to make my film. So I am in exactly the same position as you, and I know how hard it is to make films because I'm desperately trying to make my film. So just so you all know, we're in exactly the same position. If you can get onto a production, then become like with the people who we had on One Piece, do that because you see it from the inside. You then take what you learn from that, and I don't, and because we're kind of just working away every day, just scrambling, trying to get this thing made, you kind of learn it just by observing. And the other thing I would say, ask questions. When I did my work at the National Film and Television School, I didn't know what department I wanted to work in. I thought I wanted to be a director. So I just asked questions. I bugged the shit out of absolutely everybody. They were like, oh, can you just shut up asking questions? But I asked questions because I wanted to know how things worked. Because, like I keep saying, doing it is the way you learn your craft. And craft is mostly what film is. I mean, there's art for sure, but craft is mostly what it is. Take any chance you get. Somebody gives you a commercial to make, somebody gives you a music video to make, somebody gives you a movie to make, or a TV series to make, or a documentary to make it. Just make it. Just do it.